Hello and welcome to tutorial 86 part 2, and if you've not seen part 1 please do so. And the purpose of this is to calculate an exponential moving average using a price series provider. And what we've done so far is written the program that will work historically but appears to be giving us some spurious results in real time. So first thing I want to do is just do a little bit of debugging, and what I'm going to do is add a print statement into this little area here. I've already created it and just going to copy and paste it in to look at various pieces of information from the program. And what I'm also going to do is just put in a clear print log as well, just so that every time we run this thing we won't see old printed information. So I'm just going to put that in the once part of the program. And I'm going to verify this. And if we go back to our chart, we should now see some printing. Now you'll notice historically that bar status is equal to 2 until we get to the most recent of the real-time bars. You'll notice a couple of things. Firstly, the bar status of that bar is 1. In other words, it's not the end of the bar. The other thing you'll notice is that we're actually, the last bar we were looking at, or at least half-hourly bar, was 1630. We're now looking for the 1700. In actual fact, we got the 1655 bar. So this is causing some problems with our calculation. The first thing we need to do is just make sure that this only runs when the time of the bar is the time of the PSP bar. So we're going to do that by saying and t is equal to PSP dot time dot, we need to convert it into EL time format, like so. Okay, so that's the first change we're going to make. So I'm going to verify this again, see if we've got any errors, and go back to the chart. And you'll see now that we calculated for the 1630 bar, but we're waiting now for the next bar, which will be the 1700 bar. So that's going to take a little bit of time just to occur. So I'm just going to pause this for a moment and then come back nearer to that time. Okay, you'll see the new bar has just formed, and I was actually misspoke. It's not the 1700, it's the 1659. But what you'll notice is that the bar status is 1. In other words, a tick within the bar rather than the last tick of the bar. What we need to do is actually do the calculation at the end of this 5-minute bar, because the close of this 5-minute bar will also be the close of the 30-minute bar. So we're going to make a few more changes to the program. And what I found was that sometimes there's a little bit of an issue of syncing the price series provider with the actual lower time frame bars. So what I've done is instead devised a different way of doing it, and that is to say, okay, we're only going to do this calculation if it's a real time, or rather if it's not a real time calculation. So we can do that by saying if, need to make sure that that count is true, and we're going to go get app info. And again, we need to look for AI real time calc. If that is equal to 0, in other words, this is a historical calculation, then we're going to do a calculation like this. But what we're going to do if it's actually real time, so I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to say if equals to 1, in other words, a real-time calculation, then I'm going to create a new variable. I'm going to call it wait for end bar equals true. So what I'm going to do is declare this, and it needs to be a intrabar persist variable. So let's just go up to the top here and copy it in. Just going to copy this, and I'm going to set it initially to be equal to false, like so. Okay, and then what we need to do is create another little routine underneath here, and we're going to say if wait for end bar is true, we don't need to say is true, and bar status 1 equals 2, in other words the end of that 5-minute bar, then we need to perform our calculation. And the calculation is going to be exactly the same as up here, so I'm just going to copy and paste. Only instead of using the PSP, I can just use the close from the regular calculation. And we mustn't forget this. We need to set the last. And then finally we need to say wait for end bar is equal to false, like so. And what we might want to do is just build in a print statement again so we can see what's happening within this calculation in case we need to do any debugging. So I'm just going to put that in here, and let's just also put in RT_calc so we can tell the difference between the two print statements. And we need an end. Okay, so let's verify this and see what we get. Okay, so it certainly looks like the historical values are being calculated correctly. What I'm going to do now again is just leave this running for a certain amount of time, and then we'll come back and view and see if the real-time calculation is occurring correctly. Hi and welcome back to the second part in the tutorial 86 video, and you'll see now I've left this for an hour or so, and the real-time calculations are working correctly. If you just compare the number calculated by the exponential moving average applied to the half-hourly data 2, and that applied to the data 1, effectively using the price series provider, and you'll see the values there lining up nicely. So you might be thinking, well, what is the point of this? Why not just use the data 2? Well, one of the reasons is that if you use a data 2, there are certain restrictions. For example, in a strategy, you can't do intrabar order generation, and you could if you use the price series provider. Also worth noting is this was developed specifically where we have a 5-minute and a 30-minute bar lengths. If you were to use bar lengths that were different, or for example a bar length that didn't divide equally into another bar length, then there might be some differences and some changes that would need to be made to the program. Anyway, I hope you have found this useful.